On October 21, some element of the Polisario decided to stop the traffic between Morocco and Mauritania. And in fact, the road linking the two countries, Morocco and Mauritania, was destroyed. This action, and I think I have to clarify that, was not done by a peaceful protester, but by an armed element of the Polisario. And unfortunately, it was a clear violation of the ceasefire, but also the military agreement that we have with the UN and the resolution of the Security Council. We started in the beginning to use all available diplomatic tools. So we were in close contact with UNSG Guterres, the Security Council, and of course the MINURSO on the ground. The UN, as far as we know, made a few different calls to the Polisario, asking them to stop blocking the road traffic and to evacuate the zone. But unfortunately, once again, the Polisario refused to do that. So we didn't have really the choice. But after 3 weeks, the situation was really not sustainable, and we had to act. And I'm sure that everyone will understand that you cannot accept to see the road traffic with a neighboring country just blocked by armed people. So we had to act, and we launched a limited operation on the 13th of November. I have to say that it was a non-offensive operation, and with one specific goal, basically, is to guarantee and to secure the freedom of movement between Morocco and Mauritania.
Is it the case that you've now reopened that road leading to neighboring Mauritania where that buffer zone is?
Yes, absolutely. The road is open. And the operation was done in a very professional way. I think it's important to mention that because, thanks God, no one was hurt and no one was injured. More than 35 countries have supported Morocco because, no one can accept to see the law of violence governing this zone and this region. And at the same time, I think, His Majesty was very clear during his call with the UNSG Guterres. Morocco is still fully committed by the ceasefire, and we are also fully committed by the political process. So definitely we are ready to discuss with all parties to solve these disputes.
Some would see, for instance, the mobilization of the deployment, let's say, of tanks, of some of your army trucks and military personnel to Guerguerat. They would see that some as provocation to the Polisario Front. Can you just clarify what exactly this is? Because is it a military operation or is it a peaceful act? Because some will argue that it doesn't look very peaceful to have so many of your forces deployed there.
Well, as I mentioned from the beginning, that was a completely defensive operation. The rule of engagement was very clear from the beginning. Weapons can be used only for defense purposes. So our military are there right now in order to secure the freedom of movement between Morocco and Mauritania. This is our only objective. We don't have any offensive objective with this operation. It's completely peaceful. And as I mentioned, nobody was hurt, nobody was killed, nobody was injured. We acted in a very professional way.
Well, let's see now in terms of how to move forward, because we know that the Polisario Front have repeatedly spoken to the United Nations, to the UN Security Council. If, as you say, and if, as I understand, your Prime Minister, Saad Eddin El Othmani, he said that what was happening at this border point, at this buffer area, he said isn't direct military action, as you said. He said it's rather to a peaceful act to secure the road. And if we're talking about securing the road to peace now, how does that happen? How do you intend to resolve the conflict with the Polisario so that you can talk and not have any form of belligerence between both parties?
No, I fully agree. As I mentioned earlier, the only way to resolve this dispute is through negotiation and political dialogue. War is always a bad solution. We are ready to engage and we are fully committed by the political process. But, to be clear and to be frank, in order to make sure that any political process can be successful, we need a real partner. You mentioned the Polisario, of course, but you have to keep in mind the role of Algeria in this dispute. Algeria is a key player. Everybody knows in the UN that Algeria is the one behind this dispute since the beginning in 1975. Algeria is the one arming the Polisario. Algeria is the one supporting the Polisario internationally. So it's difficult to understand why Algeria keeps saying that they are not party to this dispute. So we need more coherence from the Algerian side. I mean, you cannot be behind the dispute and at the same time say that you don't have anything to do with that. So Morocco is ready to negotiate with the party, but we can't negotiate with a ghost. Same for the Polisario. I mean, frankly speaking, they have to choose. You can't complain, as you said, about the political process and the UN, and at the same time make a public statement that you want to go to a war. You can't have both. I mean, as far as we are concerned, we are ready to defend ourselves. I mean, you know the history of my country. Morocco is an old nation with the 12th century of history, and we are not afraid by anyone and by anything. But we still believe, frankly, that the political process is the only option.
So what now if we're talking about moving, forward, and there are fears that if we're talking about this buffer zone being demilitarized, the fact that there are tanks there, I hear what you say and why you say you've posted your personnel there, but what reassurance can be given that this will not descend into conflict?
Well, I think definitely we need the UN to be involved. Definitely Morocco is the one sticking to the ceasefire, and I mentioned it from the beginning that we would like to stick to the ceasefire. We have to be involved with the UN, and we have to trust the UN. I think this is the only way to get some kind of de-escalation in the region. I mean, we don't need another war in the region. We need to talk. We need a real discussion and a real